And, I have about 15 questions that, based on questions that were sent in to me, that I kind of like created a little script for myself. So you might see me look down a bit, but feel free to throw your own questions in as I go along. This has become a topic that has been so requested. It was kind of random. I made a YouTube video about it, and like that kind of sparked a lot of people asking questions, which I have to say I absolutely love, because it just shows me how many more people are getting serious about products. And I mean, it's always been important to launch your own products, but especially now with, we've seen very clearly that the old way of doing things, where you kind of would like optimize for SEO and wait to rank in Google, hope that Google liked your posts, and then monetize with affiliates and ads. It's not as reliable. Yes, you still want to optimize for SEO. It could still be a really great traffic source. It's still, for me, my number one traffic source, but it's just not as reliable. So you want to make sure that you are really looking at your blog as a business and not just a content platform. For me, in my opinion, that is truly how I think you'll become algorithm proof. I know I've seen in my own business, even though I have been impacted by Google, I've had traffic drops. It really hasn't hurt my business as a whole. I'm still able to make a profit because of the way I'm set up. And one of those products is my custom NYC travel planning, and I'll give lots of tips for that. So let's hop into the questions. Again, as I'm talking, feel free to pop your own in the chat, and I'll keep looking over. I expect I had, like I said, 15 questions. We may even go till 7, because I have so many notes for each one. So grab a drink, grab a snack, get cozy. So the first question I want to go over is, can I offer itinerary planning even if I don't have a huge audience? Yes. If you think about traditional businesses, they don't create content and then hope they have an audience and then think about what they want to offer. They create a product, they create an offer, they think about who that audience is, and then they get in front of that audience. So it's just like a mindset shift of going from content first, product later, hope my audience wants my offer, to creating the offer and finding that audience, attracting that audience who would want it. So yeah, don't worry about having an audience. With my tour company, NYC Photo Journeys, so basically with my custom travel planning, that came from Jesse on a Journey. I was sharing a lot about New York. People knew I was a local. They were asking me lots of questions about New York, asking me to show them around. So I got the idea to launch a tour. And I knew that it was something that I wanted to promote on Jesse on a Journey, but also have its own website so that it could be its own brand. It could exist without me. And also it could be sellable easily one day, something else to think about. And then from there, over the years, I just had so many people asking me trip tips, and I saw a need for that service. But that brand really did start from scratch. Yes, I had, this was back in 2013. I did have some readers on Jesse on a Journey, but really I grew that business from scratch. And I'll talk more about that once we get into the marketing side of things. The next question that came in: how do I know if my audience actually wants this? Like, let's say you're a blogger who has an audience already and you want to kind of create something for them. The first thing I always say, no matter what product you're launching, keep track of your audience's comments, questions, DMs. What are they emailing you to ask about? It'll really give you a sense of what they see you as an expert on and what they need from you. Literally keep a list, a doc, however you want to do it. And once you see a recurring question, that's a great idea for an opt-in freebie, a product. So that'll give you a good sense. You can also create like an opt-in freebie that would attract the audience for this custom trip planning, or if you're doing pre-made itineraries, same thing. Attract that audience, see if, the demand is there. But honestly, like I said, even if you don't have a built-in audience, I would try to find that audience. So You could also survey your audience. That's something I do a lot. If you're on my email list, you probably see all the time I'm throwing polls in there, to get a sense of, hey, is this something that would be helpful to you? Hey, what are your biggest struggles when it comes to planning a trip? Maybe it's even what are your biggest struggles when it comes to planning a trip around a specific place that you want to cover? So you can also get a sense of where their problems lie to tailor what you're going to offer. That's especially helpful if you're going to make pre-made itineraries, so you can get a good sense of what type of itinerary would be really helpful. I'll do one more from this list and then I'll come back and check the chat. What is the first step to offering travel planning or custom itineraries? I think that it would be figuring out your offer. Consider the content you're already creating and what would be a natural extension. So, what I mean is, when I first started doing itinerary planning, because I've been doing this for quite a while, I used to do the whole world. It was like not the whole world, but anywhere I had been, I was like, oh, I could do an itinerary. I've been there once, I've been there twice. It was so challenging. And honestly, it was harder to figure out my unique selling point beyond like I travel a lot. Once I narrowed down to New York, that helped a lot. I'm a local sightseeing guide. I'm like a certified sightseeing guide. So that's a little add-on I could add to my sales page to make me stand out a little bit. And it also helps me charge more because people will pay more money to have a local expert plan their trip versus someone who's been there a few times. So think about that, your sort of unique selling point and what exactly you want to offer. And then there are different ways you could do itinerary planning. You could do pre-made itineraries. You could do PDF custom itineraries where it's like, hey, someone tells you they're coming for 5 days. Here are the things they like. And then you create something custom. Or you could do more like trip consultations where you're hopping on Zoom with them. I personally do the custom PDFs and the Zoom calls. And then I have, this is on my to-do list in the near future, a few pre-made itineraries that I plan to launch because that is something that I do get asked about. All right, let me come over to the chat. All right, I think we're still good there. Okay, let me hop back into the questions. The next question that someone asked was, what tools or platforms do you recommend for creating itineraries? So I use Peak Pro and honestly Google Docs, and then Google My Maps to create maps of the itineraries. So, one thing to know with Google My Maps, because this is a question that comes up sometimes in my membership, is with Google My Maps, you're not allowed to sell these as a standalone product, but you can, to the best of my knowledge and research, always double check these things, but you can include them with another offer. So if you are offering custom itineraries, you can include the Google My Maps with that. And you'll talk about that on your sales page, but you just can't say, hey, if you want to buy my map of New York City, that's $15, $20, whatever you want to do. That is not allowed. Peak Pro is the software I use for my tour company. So it's not necessarily the best if you're just doing the itineraries. For me, I'm already using it, so it just makes sense to use it because then I could easily do add-ons and upsells with my tours. Like, hey, you bought a tour. My system's going to make it really easy for me to then pitch the travel planning as an add-on. So for me, that works. If you're not also doing tours, there are other tools that would probably be better. And I'll talk about those in a sec. The reason I like Google Docs, I used to try to use Canva, and you're so limited in the space you use. They're great for making really beautiful like pre-made itineraries, I think, but for these custom trip plans where I'm really trying to make sure I'm giving people all the information they're requesting and I include subway directions and all these things, I just like Google Docs because I can write whatever I want and then format later. They can take a copy, I'm going to give them the Google Doc and they can make changes and move things around and add things if they want. Super easy. They could download it, they could print it. And I usually add images to the Google Doc to make it a little more snazzy. Now for pre-made itineraries, The most common thing I've seen is Canva. Pretty much everyone I know who does that uses Canva. But just make sure when you are creating these itineraries, you're following Canva's content license agreement. I think really the problems that you would run into is more if you were going to sell templates or um, like an itinerary that another blogger might use to sell their itineraries, more like the editable templates, but always check Canva's content license agreement. You can also message their support and ask, like, hey, this is what I plan to do. Is that okay? Just to double check. A few other tools that you might want to check out. Travefy. I haven't used this as a creator, but I went on a press trip last year with Nova Scotia and they used it for my itinerary that they gave me. And I loved it. It was really, really intuitive, very beautiful, easy to click the tabs for each day. But it is a paid tool. So you might start with something free like Google Docs. And then if you wanted to upgrade to something more visual later, once you know you're getting regular clients, that might be something to think about. Two other tools could be Wanderlog. Haven't used it myself, but it seems to have good reviews. And then I noticed Notion has travel planning templates. So maybe some of you already use Notion for other things. I know it's pretty popular. That might be something to use for this. The next question that came in was, how should I package my services? So as I mentioned, I personally offer the two types of custom travel planning: one-on-one Zoom calls, I make them 45 minutes, and the daily printable itinerary. You could offer both. It gives you more options. I get probably about like 75% of my clients book the daily printable itineraries and the rest book the one-on-one calls. I love the one-on-one calls because it's, a set amount of time that we're going to be talking. And usually what I have people do for that is come with the things you want to do. If you want to outline it into like your draft itinerary that you're thinking, and then we can go day by day and I'll literally share my screen and move things around. Especially if people don't realize how big New York City is and they think that, oh, this is near that and da da da. Oh, it'll be really easy to get from like Dumbo in Brooklyn to Yankee Stadium. So I just help streamline everything and show them a map of where everything is. The daily printable itineraries, I end up making more money with those, but they are a lot more work. I'll talk about that more later. And in terms of pricing, I price those daily itineraries. I price by day because every single added day is at least another hour of work, I find. Um, Even for a place I know well, like I could plan a New York City itinerary in 2 seconds for someone. Like I don't need to do research, but it's always the formatting, the dietary restrictions, and these little things. Okay, these people are coming on a holiday and this restaurant's closed. So these little things will make you always have to kind of adjust. So that's why I price by day. I see some people will do like, if it's 1 to 5 days, it's this price. If it's 5 to 10 days, it's this price or something like that. I again find each day is more work, so I like to make sure I'm being paid per day. Um, Next question was, is it okay to sell itinerary templates in addition to custom services? So not the templates themselves, but is it okay to basically sell pre-made itineraries? Like maybe you're selling a 7-day New York City itinerary, and then you also want to offer the NYC custom travel planning. That's a great idea because you are catching people at different price points and with different needs. Some people don't want to pay the money for a custom itinerary because that's going to cost more, but they do want your expertise and they want help planning a trip. So you can package up something that you can create once and then resell on autopilot. Always make sure you're kind of checking it, making sure everything you've suggested is open, nothing's closed, especially with restaurants and things like that. But it's a lot, easier to kind of make passive. And then it'll be easier to upsell too, because maybe someone is paying for your pre-made itinerary. And then maybe they also want to book a private Zoom call with you as an add-on to just talk through everything. So that can still be more budget friendly than having you create a custom 7-day itinerary for them. All right, let me head back to the chat. Jennifer said, TripIt is great on the road, but Travefy is good for planning. Travefy is just hard for when you are actually traveling. I had a pretty good success with it with the Nova Scotia trip. They gave it to me. I kept it on my desktop, like I pinned it to a bookmark, and then I had it as an app, and it worked well. But I don't know what the price is. I've never paid for it, so I know like a tourism board was using it. They're going to have a bigger budget than maybe someone who's a blogger just starting the itinerary planning. So you also want to think about your budget, especially in the beginning too. Like I said, Google Docs and Canva are great tools that most of you probably already have, so that might be a good place to start with tools. Okay, next question was, how much should I charge and should I offer tiered pricing? So when I'm creating products, I am usually looking at what other people charge as a baseline. That is not to say that okay, I see people are charging $50 to $100, so I have to do that. You can absolutely charge more if you offer more value. It's just a good starting point to get a sense of what people are paying. You could also start in line with what other people are charging and then increase. I know from the time I started my New York City travel planning to now, I've increased the price a few times every single time that I'm doing it, and I'm realizing, wow, this is a lot of work. I've increased the price and I haven't had issues with that. But I do think having a known expertise about the destination that is like very clear to other people coming to my website helps a lot. Again, people will pay extra to have a local expert, tell them about the destination. I have probably over 100 blog posts about New York City. I'm constantly sharing on social media about New York City and being a local. So it's just something that I'm known for. So if you are choosing a destination or a region, you definitely want to make that a big part of your content plan. And then in terms of charging, sorry if you hear the horns outside. Again, I live in New York. It's always loud here. You can create other related products and add-ons to cross-promote and upsell. So for example, maybe you offer a discounted one-on-one planning call or like email support while traveling or a custom packing list for the trip or an emergency phrase cheat sheet as a checkout upsell when someone is buying your PDF itinerary if you're doing pre-made itineraries. Or you don't even have to discount these things, but you can use them to create packages on the sales page. So maybe it's, okay, package A includes this, package B includes this, plus the email support. And then the, top tier package includes all those things, something like that. When delivering a custom itinerary, it can also be natural to share about your one-on-one calls. Like, hey, I created this itinerary. If you, feel like after you've read it, you want to then have some consulting about your trip to help you just prepare better, I offer this. One thing I do, because I also offer tours here, all goes very nicely together, is when people are booking a tour, I pitch the travel planning, but once I plan a trip for people, I then also say, hey, I mentioned crossing the Brooklyn Bridge and then exploring Dumbo. I actually do a photo tour of that if you wanted to book it. Almost everyone ends up booking a tour if they haven't already with the trip planning. So try to cross promote as much as you can to make you're offering them more value, and then you are also earning more money with like that one customer. I was thinking about this today, like as bloggers, it's always like, how do I get more traffic? How do I get more traffic? But something neat with products is once you get that, those customers and you're really aligned, you can then kind of have ways to increase the profitability of the traffic you are getting, if that makes sense. What are the best ways to promote an itinerary planning service? I have a lot that I wrote down for this, so I'm going to look down a lot to make sure I don't miss anything. So, as bloggers, start with your website and content. Make your sales page extremely obvious when people visit your website, whether they are coming to your homepage or they're reading a blog post. Make sure that they see your sales page. So that means it should be in your main menu. No matter where people on your website, they're going to see your main menu. I also have it on my homepage. So if you go to my homepage and you see my main menu, I have a shop there. Then if you scroll down, I have sections of the homepage where I again talk about my offerings. So don't be afraid to put it twice. Um, put it in your link in bio on your social media platforms, promote it within relevant content. If you go to, well, really any of my New York City contents, but like the easiest place to go would be nycphotojourneys.com and look at any blog post. Usually I do a lot of listicles. So let's say the listicle is like 10 ways, my cat's gonna come and frame in a sec probably. Let's say it's like 10 ways to celebrate your birthday in New York City. What you would do, or what I do, is I'm gonna make one of those ways booking an experience with me, and I'll mention my travel planning. And then I will have a box recur every, however many, let's say if it's a list of 10, I'll probably have the box 2 or 3 times throughout the post, reminding people about the experiences and easy links to book. So make sure you're promoting it in relevant content on the blog, also on social media, on YouTube, wherever you are active, your email signature, wherever people are finding you. And then make creating relevant content across your blog and social media a regular part of your content strategy. If you are covering all different destinations, like, on Jessie on a Journey, I don't only cover New York City. But once I started offering New York City tours and travel planning, that is by far the most widely covered destination. It's the one I spend the most time on because I'm really going to get the most out of my time with it. Because yes, I can monetize with ads and affiliates like I can with all of my other destinations, but now I can also promote my products too. So for example, if you're launching like a Miami travel planning or a pre-made Miami itinerary, you'll want to make sure that you're regularly sharing about Miami across your channels and just letting people know about your service. The other really big piece of this, and if you've ever been, if you're on my email list or you've taken a course with me, you know that I'm going to say this, also get people onto your email list. So you can create a relevant opt-in freebie. For me, I have an NYC local guide where I'm not necessarily giving them an itinerary. It's just some really fun things that I love as a local that aren't published in all the guidebooks. So what I'm doing is I'm attracting people interested in exploring New York City and showing off my expertise as a local. And then within that freebie, I'm also sharing about my tours and itinerary planning. But I also let people know in the welcome sequence about your service, or about my service in my case. With my blogging digital products, I'm usually pitching at the end. So someone joins my email list, I welcome to the community. Then the next day, I'm sharing my before and after story, going from just starting a blog to becoming a full-time blogger. Then I have some nurturing emails helping people bust common myths, overcome common, objections, and also empowering them with like different tips and strategies. And then it's kind of like, hey, here's your next step. If you want to take your blog full time, I have its membership Travel Blog Prosperity. With the travel planning and the tours, I do it differently because I assume potentially when someone is grabbing my NYC local guide, they might be coming to New York City tomorrow. So I want to make sure that they know about my services right away. So I share them in the welcome email. And if you do that, you can still then have an automated sequence where you're sharing these amazing tips and strategies. And then you can still remind them in those emails, hey, I have this service. Maybe it's a PS in your email. There are different ways to do it. But just remember, when people are grabbing a freebie related to travel, they might be traveling soon. And I have found that a lot of my NYC travel planning people are like, can I have this? They're leaving soon. They want this itinerary right away. That's another upsell, by the way, you could do. I offer mine within 7 business days that they'll get it back because it does take time to create. But you could have rush order be an add-on. That would be a super easy one to add, and people are willing to pay for that. That's something else I do with my photo tours if they want the photos back faster. That's an easy add-on. Share related tips with your email list to make your expertise clear so that when they have so that when they think of the destination that you cover, you're front of mind. With my content strategy, I really want people, when they're thinking about New York City, fun things to do, NYC travel, they think of me. That is my goal with the content. And a little idea, I kind of mentioned this quickly, but in your email signature, you might have something like visiting Miami, visiting Miami soon. I offer custom travel planning designed around your interests so you can focus on the fun, not the logistics. Click here for the full info. So if you don't want to be super promotional in every email, you could share your normal tips, your normal ideas, and then just in the PS have something like that so that people always know about your service. Um, and then when you really want to drive sales, you might offer a special discount or a bonus. Like if they book at least 5 days of custom itinerary planning, they get a free 30-minute, private Zoom call with you two to go over the trip. One thing I will say though, when thinking about discounts and bonuses, don't heavily discount your time for money services. So for example, I would be much more likely to discount a pre-made itinerary that I created that I can sell more passively than I would my custom itinerary planning. I would have a hard time, or my tours, those I don't really discount. I would prefer to add a bonus to those because they are time for money. I would say the same thing with anything that's extremely premium, even if it's digital, if you have a 10 module course that's like your life's work, it's all your tips, it's your whole process. Not saying you can't offer any discount, but these big, buy now and get like 30+% off, that's a lot to discount those types of services. So just keep that in mind with, let's say you're doing the custom itinerary planning. I would go more on the bonus route personally. And then collaboration is really key. I know, now again with Google kind of throwing everyone's blogs up and down and up and down, and traffic is down, and how do I get my visitors back? Collaboration is such a great way to get in front of people. They already have that audience. So cross promotion, this is one of the main collabs I like to do, particularly cross promoting freebies. And here's why. If I'm cross promoting my service, that audience doesn't know me yet. So I'd prefer to give them something for free, get them to come over to my community where they can get to know me and then feel more comfortable booking a paid service. So that's a great one. I highly recommend too, with this whole collaboration idea, make it a in pen right in your planner, whether you do a full day once a month. Something I used to do that. Now I kind of move towards every Monday. I try to send at least, 10 emails, let's say 10 collab emails, different kinds. So whatever works for you, but make sure it is a recurring task in your planner where you are doing outreach to collaborate. And there are many different ways you can collaborate. Another thing that you can do. Oh, and one other thing with cross promotion and collaboration, because this comes up a lot. I like to swap emails with swap opt-in freebies by doing guest email swaps. But let's say you're like, well, I don't really have an email list. Maybe you, though, are, doing great on Instagram. You don't have to swap the same channel for the same channel. Just look for people who really have the audience you want to get in front of and start there. And then you can always negotiate. Like if they have a bigger audience than you, maybe you're doing a little bit more. Maybe you're sending an email, an Instagram, and a Facebook post, and they're just doing an email. You try to make it work, but start with who is the audience I want to get in front of. Connect with them. Even if it's not a fit, it might be down the road. I just had someone pitch me to do an email swap, and, they were really just starting out. So their list was much, much smaller than mine. So I said, thanks for reaching out. I'm so glad we connected. We followed each other on Instagram. So we made a connection. And I just said, hey, let's touch base at the end of the year, just because I would need it to be a little bit closer in numbers. So there's still no harm in doing the outreach, getting on someone's radar and making that personal connection. The other thing I highly recommend doing is starting your own affiliate program. Let me grab this link quick. I do have a podcast episode and guide on how to do this. But then you have people who have an audience selling for you, and then you are rewarding them with referral income. Here, let me pop this in. How to create an affiliate program. Okay, I just popped that in the chat. And make it a regular point. This is one of those, the 10 emails. Part of those emails is going on Google, going on YouTube, going on social media. Who are the people showing up for the topics of things like NYC travel, tips for visiting NYC itineraries, things like that, where it would be easy for them, especially if they have content ranking in Google. I'll say things like, hey, and so I have this post. I usually offer XYZ amount for commission, but, if you're willing to promote me, I can increase it. The people you really want to join your affiliate program, you can kind of try to give them some perks. And with itinerary planning, you can give them a sample itinerary that you've created so they can actually see your work and know, hey, this is something I would or wouldn't promote. Also think about local travel partners that might be good. So is there a way to maybe cross promote with a local tour company or hotels or even maybe local newsletters? Like I know in New York City, there are a lot of different NYC related newsletters. Try to get creative and just think about, okay, what businesses could I reach out to? Hey, you promote me, I'll promote you. And then the last thing I want to mention is having some type of launch event to really make sure that people know you offer this service. So that could be um, just a lot of different posts during the week where you have some kind of special offer. Hey, this week only you can get my travel planning and then get these bonuses. And make sure you're, sharing about it. If you've created that affiliate program, you can let affiliates know beforehand, give them some swipe copy and graphics to also promote this. Slightly off topic because I know we're not talking about tours, but when I launched my tours, I actually did in-person events too. I would do press events where I hosted a few. My NYC photo tours are all private, so these were group, like small group journalists, influencers, bloggers. I did like the session, but as a group, they left getting a sense of the experience. They took their own photos. I also took photos of them to keep. So it was great. And I got into huge publications right away by doing this. So I know I think I've recognized some of you as having told me you were also interested in tours. So I wanted to throw that out there because I do think travel planning and tours can really go hand in hand. But of course, launching your own tours is a lot more work than launching itinerary planning. So you can also just link up with existing tour companies and promote them as an affiliate. That's also an option. Okay, let me come to the chat. How do you differentiate your PDF itineraries from itinerary blog posts you have already written, which the customer can access for free? I actually have one of my most popular posts is a 4-day NYC itinerary. And of course, people can still use that, but it is different because with my PDF itineraries, it's custom. They're filling out if you guys are on my email list let me grab this one thing. Travel blogging resource library. In my travel blogger resource here it is. Library. I have my client onboarding form. Just pop this in the chat. Free travel blogging resource. I have my client onboarding form. I have updated this so many times because not every time, but many times I've like created itineraries and realized like, okay, I need to know if they've been in New York before. I need to know what food they like, just there's so many questions and things you realize you need to know. And I'm now curating this itinerary based on their very specific needs, their dietary restrictions, their dates. I'm including restaurants that, maybe I didn't really talk about in that 4-day itinerary. Maybe that's just a little bit more general to everyone. So with that, I am really capturing people that, want something custom. However, like I mentioned in the beginning, I am planning to launch pre-made NYC itineraries. Those are going to be more niche. But something else I do that is a huge selling point for New York City, and this goes back to adding value and pricing and things like that, is I not only include a Google My Map of all the places I put in the itinerary for them, I also will include subway directions. So think about the pain points of your audience because this will, and not just your audience, but your audience in relation to the destination or region you'll cover. It, it'll help you add value. So I know as someone who covers New York City and gets loads of questions about it, people are scared of the subway, not just like safety wise, they want the safety tips and everything, but oh my gosh, am I going to get lost? How do I do this? Like, this is so confusing to people who don't take a subway all the time. So I include from place to place those subway directions. That's a huge selling point for me. So I know not every destination has a subway, but transportation in general, I think, is a big confusing point. Like my husband and I'm going on a cruise trip with Holland America actually this summer. And I'm doing some of the planning right now for this Alaska cruise I'll be doing. And we're trying to figure out like, okay, we want to get here. It says there's a bus. How often does the bus come? Is it easy to get to? Are there days that it doesn't run? Like there's all these things that would be so obvious to you as an expert that to someone who's never been to a place, this is the thing that's going to give them anxiety. So if you can include that specifically for people in those itineraries, that could be a huge selling point. And then I saw a question. I don't see a lot of bloggers super obviously highlighting the audience for their itineraries. Do you do this? For me, I get very different questions from families versus couples or friend groups. I don't because I will plan all of them. Like even though my Jessie on a Journey blog is solo female travel, and I promote the itineraries there, I also like my NYC photo journeys clientele is all over the place. I get a lot of solo travelers who come over from Jessie on a Journey, but I also get families. I get a lot of people celebrating milestones. Um, and I also I have people like with special needs. I have couples. I have people in their 20s, people who are retired. So it is all over the place. And I can create the itinerary for anyone. So that's where that onboarding form comes into play. I make sure, to ask them like dietary restrictions. Do you want how much walking can you reasonably do? Are you going to be more of like a bus tour type of people, or do you like a lot of walking tours? Do you like doing a lot of different guided tours, or are you more of a DIY person? You'd maybe like one or maybe none. So you need to ask these questions on the form, and then make sure you really get to know your person before you create it. I have used City Mapper for subway directions in NYC before. Is there another app you would recommend instead? I just use Google Maps, and then you can click the subway icon and it'll tell you step by step. And I even say that in my itinerary, like, make sure you always double check. Google will know about like construction work and things like that, but they still like having the general idea. And I do it step by step, like from your hotel, you're going to walk 2 blocks north to the corner of X and Y, and then go down. You'll take the N train in the direction of Brooklyn. So I really try to make it clear for people so they feel confident with their trip. What tools do you use in the customer journey? Inquiry form questionnaire before you plan. Yes, so this was one of the questions. You know what? I'll answer that in a bit because I just don't want to lose my place in this, and I want to make sure I don't forget any of the notes that I wrote down, but that's one of the questions, for sure. Okay. How do I know whether I should promote my opt-in freebie or my service directly in my content? I do both. Some people will book directly in the blog post, so I like to let them know that I do that. Again, you should also have it in your menu. But I also promote the freebie because maybe someone would prefer to grab that, and that's how I'm going to get them once they check out the freebie and they really love it and they're like, oh, I want to work with them further. Maybe they need to get a few emails from me first, get to know me, and then maybe they're going to want to book the service. So, don't limit yourself. I think it's worth it to do both. Oh, perfect. We're at that question. How do I make the booking and onboarding process smooth? So the first thing is you want to make it very clear on your sales page what the whole process looks like. This is a really big, I would say, like mistake I see people make with sales pages, like sales pages in general. I feel like are often very, very vague, super clear. What are they going to do? What are they going to get? And what happens then and now. Okay, they're going to get a custom itinerary. When? Do they have to fill out a form before that happens? Okay, they're going to get it in 7 business days. 7 business days from when? When they check out or when they fill out the form? You want to help make people feel really clear and confident because then they're going to be more likely to book. If they read your sales page and then have a million questions, they might get overwhelmed. Sure, they might email you to ask, but they might also just be like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. This is confusing, and click away. So remove that obstacle. Make sure you are securely accepting payments using, Stripe, PayPal. Those are secure, trusted platforms. That's going to be very, very, very important. And, a lot of platforms like my platform Peak has, I think, Stripe built in, but they have a secure payment processor. So, safety is very important. And then send a welcome email, have this all be automated with next steps, such as an onboarding form. And I shared that travel blogger resource library link. I have my onboarding form in there if anybody wants to grab it. I let them know, okay, welcome, you've paid, you're all good. You need to fill out this form. As soon as I get it, it'll be within 7 business days of me receiving the form that you will get your itinerary. So that's clear on the sales page, but I also remind them in the welcome email because a lot of times too, when people want to reference something like, okay, yeah, I booked this thing. When am I supposed to get my itinerary again? They don't usually go to the sales page. They go to the confirmation email. So make sure that information is there too. But you want to make sure this is all automated. So again, I use Peak. So they have a place to do that. But, there's always ways to kind of connect your email marketing platform and make it all automated. That's just going to save you time and stress, especially I'm sure a lot of us travel and maybe you have a day or two you're not near your laptop. You just want to make sure people are getting these confirmation emails right away. And if you're using like a Travefy or one of those, I'm sure they're going to have a way built in as well. What if someone wants a destination I haven't visited? So this is a benefit of focusing on a specific destination versus like the whole world or, everywhere you've ever been. Because again, you might think, oh, I've been to Italy 5 times. I know it pretty well. Italy's a big country. So it's still going to take you a lot of time if you aren't really an expert who goes all the time or a local. So it's going to be much harder and more time consuming. Use your sales page and your FAQ to set expectations and be super clear about the destinations you specialize in. So maybe, with mine, my site is called NYC Photo Journeys and the title of the page is NYC Custom Travel Planning. People know it's New York City. But if you're going to do maybe a few different places that you're an expert on, just make it very clear. You can do that on the sales page, maybe even at checkout. During the checkout experience, you can set up like a drop-down menu so they're forced to choose a place you actually feel confident creating about. And you can also make it very clear how you approach destinations you haven't personally visited. Maybe you say something like, if I haven't been to a place, I have other experts that also help me with the itineraries. So maybe it's something where you then hire another blogger to create the itinerary for you. Or maybe you say that you do extensive research to make sure the itinerary is perfect. Explain your process transparently and, say the things I was just saying. I mentioned that. And then if you can't confidently deliver a quality itinerary, if someone books you and wants a place that you're like, I don't know anyone who could do this. The research seems really tedious. I don't think I could do it. Just refund them. Don't try to lie. Don't create something that isn't actually what you're promising. I've had to do that before. I was doing solely in New York City when I was first starting and I was doing all these different places. There were a few times people booked me for places that I would list where I knew in the sales page, but sometimes people would book me anyway for a different place. And I would just refund them and say, hey, I'm really sorry. I want to make sure you have the best trip ever. And I just, I'm not the one to do this for you. So, just be prompt with that and honest and it'll be fine. It's going to look better on you than trying to create something that isn't that great to be, that doesn't end up being a great product. Um, what are some ways to protect myself legally? This is so important. It's something like across the board, no matter what product or service you're launching. I feel like the legal stuff is so not fun and it's scary and it's tedious, but when you are set up legally, it's going to make you feel more confident um moving forward and like loudly promoting yourself. So I'll give an example. When I first started with my tours, this was way back in the day. Insurance was expensive. The tours were just starting. I wasn't getting a ton of them, and it was like, oh, do I need insurance? And I thought about it every time I got a booking. Then, once I was starting to, and if I could go back, I would have got insurance from the beginning. I was taking a huge risk. I would not recommend that. Um, Once I got insurance, though, like I have now, I have a policy. I renew it every year. I feel so much better knowing, luckily I've never had to use it, but if somebody gets hurt, because it could be as simple as my mom, like, had a chipped, I forget what the bone is. She like chipped her heel bone walking off a sidewalk in New York City. Something so simple like that could happen, and then they might sue me. So you really want to protect yourself. And in the sense of itineraries, what if you recommend something and it doesn't go well? So you need to protect yourself. So first thing first, I am not a lawyer. I highly recommend talking to one if you can. I know it can be pricey, but it could, you know, really, really be a great investment to protect yourself. But check local services in your area. For example, in New York City, we have something called NELP. Whenever I try to say this word, I get um, n- Neighborhood Entrepreneurial Law Project. NELP. They give small business owners free legal advice every month. They run these 30-minute clinics where you can actually talk to a lawyer. And depending on your income, for your area and everything, you may even be entitled to apply for free pro bono services where they can like create all your legal contracts and everything, which can be amazing. Um, but just look into stuff like that. Law projects, small business services. I know Baruch College in New York City offers. When I was starting, they did my business plan for free. I didn't even go to this college. They just offer it to New York City residents. So look in your area to see what might be available. Um, First of all, even, whether you're offering products and services or not, legal pages on your website are a must. Privacy policy, disclaimer, terms of use, as well as your cookies disclaimer. Been to a website, you probably see the cookie pop up. These things like privacy policy is how, people's data is used. Disclaimer disclaims you from, okay, what if someone's reading my blog and I recommend a restaurant and someone gets food poisoning? I want to make sure that I am, not liable. And then in your terms of use, on the blogging side of things, you can talk about how people can use your website. Are they allowed to steal your photos? Things like that. No, they should not be allowed to do that. But you want to let them know. And also, in terms of service, how can they use your products and things like that? My terms of service, I also make them at checkout click a box saying that they've read it and they agree to it. So, like a contract there. I also put a disclaimer on the itinerary itself. So let me pull one up so I can actually just read to you what I have. Itinerary. This is gonna give me a hard time because I'm live streaming. It's not pulling it up. And we see itinerary. All right, this might not work as good as I thought it would. Huh. Okay, let me try this one more time. And let's see. Oh, it'll work. Okay. So at the top, I write, I've created the itinerary below based on your form responses. Of course, feel free to move things around as you see fit. I tried to make sure I included your must-dos and also added some of my own personal favorites as a local and tour guide. Disclaimer in red. This itinerary was created to the best of our knowledge and abilities and is for informational and educational purposes only. NYC photo journeys cannot be held liable for any information that is inaccurate or any issues that arise during your trip. So I just make that super clear. The last thing I want to mention with this is really consider whether you want to add the risk of booking services for clients because you can charge a lot more for this, but there is added risk. Like, let's say you book something wrong, that's going to be on you now. Like, I had a friend, we were on a press trip and in a remote place, and she's also a travel agent. And on this press trip, she got a message from her clients that she had booked their flights wrong. And she ended up basically having to pay for new flights for them. So just be careful with bookings. Even if you're not booking flights, something like in New York City, I had a client, I felt so bad. She quickly booked 4 Broadway show tickets for the wrong date. And it wasn't the wrong date on her trip. It was like she was coming July 1st and she booked it for August 1st, something like that. Broadway would not refund her. So, if you're the one who made that booking, it's going to be on you to refund those tickets. And those tickets, 4 Broadway show tickets, oof, that's at least $500 minimum, probably more like 800, 2000 nowadays. So again, do you want to take on that added liability and stress? Okay, I have 2 more questions to go. Let me just come back to the live stream. Uh, uh, um, Tools. My sales page is through Kit. Is that a good option? I haven't used them for sales pages. I usually try to keep people on my own website as much as possible. So I don't know if it's like a page that is on your own site, because the other really neat thing about creating your own pages on your site is you can optimize them for SEO. Like my travel planning page ranks. And I'm not sure how Kit works, but I know with their like opt-in freebie forms, it's usually like a very weird URL, like pie in the sky /236.jpg. Like it's usually like, does it make sense? I don't know if the sales pages are different. But try to keep people on your own website too, as much as possible. Do people, and then I totally forgot with the legal stuff. Have insurance if you can. My policy honestly covers all different kinds of stuff. I really got it for the tours because that's a pretty big liability. I'm taking people around. They could get hurt. I want that like medical liability too. But something I did add this year is uh I I want to say it's called IP infringement. Oof. I'm gonna send out a replay of this and I'll find the exact term. Maybe IP infringement? Because if you, let's say, use like a copyrighted photo as a blogger totally on accident, this can happen more easily than you think. That could be a huge, huge fine. So that covers things like that. So there are different things, as a business owner that, I think it's worth it. I get my insurance through Taylor and Taylor. They're like the umbrella company, I guess you'd say. And then they got me 2 different policies through Chubb, CHUBB. I forget the other one. But anyway, Taylor and Taylor is like who I speak to and went through. Like, do you need insurance at just doing travel planning and not doing tours? It's less liability, but I don't think it hurts to look into. I think like as a business owner, you are taking on a bit of liability. So I think it would be worth looking into, I guess is what I'll say. Because again, I already had it with the tours. Worth looking into. The other thing I should mention with the legal side of things is your business structure. And this just goes for any products you're going to sell, any liability you are going to take on. You want to set yourself up as an S corp or an LLC. Usually it's an LLC to start, and then I'm not like a financial planner or an accountant or anything, but like the general rule I've heard is once you hit like that 60K mark, the tax benefits of the S corp can make sense. I believe you can also be an LLC taxed as an S corp. I'm an S corp personally, but anyway, the business structure, I would talk to like an accountant, financial planner type of person to choose what's best for you. But those structures will help separate your personal assets from your business assets. So let's say I'm just a sole proprietor, something happens, somebody wants to sue me. Now they can sue me everything I have. Now, if something happens and someone wants to sue me, they can sue Jesse on a journey, but Jesse Festa is separate. So that's another piece of like protection once you start taking on more liability in general as just a business owner, a blogger, but we're also business owners, right? Do people have any expectations that they can reach out to you with issues while they are actually out exploring using your itinerary? No, I don't include that, but that could be an add-on that you know, you can offer that as an add-on, and that could be extra income for you and extra value for your audience. It's on my site, but the checkout goes to another window. And then what happens? So they'd still be on your site. Like, is your menu at the top of that page? Like, that's another thing. I guess I'd have to like check it out to see what the flow is. I just in general like the more you can keep people on your own site, the better. But if it's a flow where it's like really still on your website, like what's the URL? Is it your website URL and then like the page URL? If so, then that's fine. Or like even a subdomain like kit dot your URL is okay too. And it's not to say it's also not okay. It's just I think a good practice in general to try to keep people on your site as much as possible. Let me go to these two other questions, and if people have others, I'll come back to the chat. How do you handle clients who want a little more than they paid for? So kind of what we were just talking about. This is where being very clear on your sales page, in your confirmation email, and in your terms is very important. What exactly do they get? What happens if they don't like something you suggested? Do you offer revisions? If so, how many? Very clear. How many follow-up emails do they get and within what time frame? So it's like, hey, you get one round of follow-up, you get one follow-up email within 5 days of receiving your itinerary. Just be clear. If you're doing a private call instead, exactly how long is it? And something I like to do because, let's say it's a 45-minute call and people are still like asking a million questions and they are kind of like, maybe they don't notice the time is coming to an end, or they're like, let me try to get as much as I can. Set an alarm for 10, 15 minutes before as a sort of like, hey, and let them know in the beginning, like, all right, I'm setting an alarm for 10 minutes before, just so I can make sure that when there's only 10 minutes left, we get to like the most important points you want to cover. This way, you're setting that really clear boundary verbally and like with an alarm. And you're also making it like a value for them. Like, I want to make sure we are touching on all of the most important things during this call. I want to value your time. So that's something I like to do. And then another thing you might do, like, let's say you include, or let's say the email support. You send the itinerary and someone says, hey, how can we contact you during the trip? We'd love to, if something goes wrong. That's a really great idea that I could see how that would be really valuable. It does fall outside of the scope of the package you purchased, but I'd be happy to add that for, XYZ dollars or include it as part of an upgrade, however you want to say it. But you can just frame it as, something that if you are willing to do it, that would be great. Sure, happy to do it. But just so you know, this is the package you purchased and this would be the add-on price. And then the last question was, what are some things bloggers don't realize when launching itinerary planning? Definitely the legal implications, especially I think the booking things for people. What could possibly go wrong with that? Again, I've had people offer me a good amount of money to do it for them. I'm still like nervous about the liability. No, maybe one day I would do it, but it's just something to think about. Also, how much time it takes. Even if you know the destination well, every time I make a New York City itinerary, I'm always just like, wow, I've been doing this for so long. I thought by now I'd be able to basically like copy and paste itineraries and reuse. And I do to an extent. Yeah. There's certain portions of an itinerary. Like if I'm coming to New York City and I'm doing like the lower Manhattan over the Brooklyn Bridge to Dumbo Walk, yeah, I'll grab that. But so many people then end up wanting to do it the other way. So then you have to kind of like flip it around. And then, oh, wait, they're seeing a show this day. So the other itinerary you created, now you have to switch things around. So, yes, you can pull different pieces of itineraries you've created, but you'll almost always have a customization you will be doing. So just know that going into this, custom itineraries do take time, but pre-made itineraries are also an option. And then the last point I wanted to make is just, I mentioned it, but the importance of transparency and clarity. Just be super crystal clear what people get so there's no confusion. And make sure you also, with your terms and conditions, think of every possible thing that could happen. Um, Anything that could go wrong, you want to address it on that page just to make sure. Okay, so that was all of the questions. Let me come back to the chat, and I will, for those of us still here, I'll pop that bonus in the chat as well. On that 41 clever ways bonus. Let me make sure this is actually the. Okay, yeah. Let me pop that in the chat. And then I wanted to I have this. I'm gonna put one more thing in. Oh, did I give you? I think I gave you guys the link to. Oh, wait. Did I give you guys the wrong link? I did. I see everyone coming onto my Google Doc now. Wait, wrong link. Let me grab it. 41 clever ways. Here's the real bonus. Here's the updated one. Sorry about that. Let me delete that. 41 clever ways to monetize bonus. Here we go. Sorry about that. And the one other thing I wanted to pop in the chat is, and you might hear sound for a sec, is just my little visual workshop I have on this selling custom itineraries. Workshop. It's just like a mini workshop, but maybe there are certain things I talked about that you want a visual of. That's a little YouTube video there. Instead of booking services, you can still give your client affiliate links to book products, e.g. Expedia or Viator, so the client actually does the physical booking and the liability isn't on you. Exactly. One thing I do, though, is just because they've already paid for the itinerary, I definitely use affiliate links where I think it's actually a great affiliate link to use and with disclosure. But sometimes Viator isn't the best place to book. So sometimes I will just do the direct booking link if they're going to get like more package options or a better price. They're not supposed, like, realistically, I used to list my tours on Viator. The price is supposed to be the same, but sometimes it isn't. So just, always give them the best possible experience, but, also include affiliate links again with disclosure where that makes sense. So something like City Pass, that's going to be an easy affiliate link. And oftentimes when people want to do a few different excursions and attractions, it's going to make sense. All right. Any last questions? One other thing I'll pop in the chat is I do have a webinar coming up, and it's not really about itinerary planning, but It is about creating a profitable algorithm proof blog. I'm going to start promoting it next week. But since you are here, I'll give you the link now if you're interested, and it's free. Free how I'll just say free workshop, how to create a profitable algorithm proof blog in 5 steps. And I'm going to have, you know, a new stay until the end bonus for that. And some new, I'll have an offer at the end with some fun bonuses too. So grab your seat in that. Any last questions before we hop off? So excited again to see that so many people are getting serious about launching their own products and services. Again, going back to what I said in the beginning, it doesn't matter if you don't have an audience yet. Don't wait to grow an email list. Don't wait to launch products and take more control over your income with your own product. You control the pricing, you control the marketing, you control, like working with brands is great, but you do pitching, and this one doesn't have a budget, but they'll do a swap, and this one can't offer anything. And oh, we'd love to work with you, but email us next year. Or oh, your rate is this. Well, we only have this. There's so much back and forth with affiliates. Yes, it's great, but you are only getting a portion of the referral income. So with products, yes, you have to do the marketing, but there are different things you can do to like run your own affiliate program, where other people are promoting you as an affiliate and you're keeping the bulk of the money. So it's such a great, great, great thing that people are starting to do this. Awesome, awesome. Great spending some time with everyone. And I will send a replay out of this. It'll be on my YouTube channel too, but just for anyone who didn't come tonight. And if people have follow-up questions, just reply to that email or pop them below the video here. All right. Bye, everyone.